Story 1. The Lighthouse Keeper's Schedule. The logbook entry for March 9th was in my handwriting, but I didn't write it. I'd been keeping the Sentinel Point light for 8 months when I found the entry. The lighthouse sat on a jagged outcrop 17 miles off the coast of Newfoundland, accessible only by helicopter every 2 weeks for supply drops. The isolation was exactly what I'd wanted after the divorce. Just me, the light, the fog, and the North Atlantic beating itself against the rocks 300 feet below. But that morning, staring at the logbook, my coffee went cold in my hand. The entry was dated 4 days ahead, March 9th. Today was March 5th. 0342 hours, light malfunction, Sector 3. Investigated top gallery. Found door to lens room open. Did not open it. It was already open when I arrived. Hinges make no sound anymore. Closed door. Returned to quarters. Could hear breathing in stairwell behind me, matching my pace. Did not turn around. Recommend immediate evacuation. The handwriting was mine. The details were specific. The coffee cup trembled in my grip. I'd kept meticulous logs since arriving. Weather patterns, shipping traffic, maintenance schedules, even my meals. Routine was survival out here. I flipped back through the pages. Every entry in my hand, neat and controlled. Then this. 4 days in the future. Written in the same blue pen currently sitting on the desk. The lighthouse suddenly felt smaller. I told myself it was a joke. Maybe I'd gotten the date wrong, suffered some kind of fugue state, written it during a bout of insomnia. Except I hadn't. I checked my watch, my phone, the radio timestamp. March 5th, 2019. The entry said March 9th. The next 3 days were the longest of my life. I couldn't stop reading it. 0342 hours. The light would malfunction. Something about the door to the lens room. Breathing in the stairwell. That last line kept circling in my head. Recommend immediate evacuation. I considered calling it in, getting pulled early. But what would I say? I found a logbook entry I apparently haven't written yet. They'd think the isolation had cracked me. One crazy reported and you're flagged, barred from remote postings. I needed this job, needed the solitude. So I waited. March 6th passed normally. I performed my rounds, checked the light, ate canned stew, listened to the wind. I started carrying the logbook with me everywhere, checking it obsessively. The entry remained. March 9th, in my handwriting. March 7th. The fog rolled in thick as wool. Visibility dropped to 20 feet. The foghorn blared its mournful pulse every 40 seconds. I climbed to the gallery that evening for the sunset check, even though there was no sun to see, just gray pressing against the windows. The door to the lens room was closed. I tested the hinges. They creaked, loud and rusty. The logbook said they'd make no sound. I oiled them anyway. Spent an hour working penetrating lubricant into the old iron. When I finished, the door swung silent as a thought. My hands were shaking when I realized what I'd done. March 8th, I didn't sleep. I sat in the kitchen with every light blazing, watching the clock. The supply helicopter wasn't due for 6 more days. The radio was for emergencies only, and I still couldn't articulate what the emergency was. A logbook entry? My own handwriting predicting something I hadn't experienced? At midnight, I climbed to the top gallery. I needed to see it myself. The lens room, the space where it would happen. The lighthouse was an iron skeleton around me, spiral stairs climbing through darkness. My flashlight beam caught on damp stone walls, on rust, on the small rectangular windows, showing nothing but fog. The lens room was locked. I kept the only key on a ring with 6 others, all essential to lighthouse operations. The Fresnel lens dominated the space, a massive crystalline beehive of prisms that concentrated a single bulb into a beam visible for 30 miles. It rotated with a mechanical grinding, a sound that had become white noise after 8 months. I checked every inch of the room. The door, the windows, the lens itself. Everything normal. Everything fine. At 200 hours, I went back to my quarters. At 3:30, I was still awake, lying on my bunk, listening to my heartbeat and the distant foghorn. At 3:42, the light went out. Not the electric lights in my room, the lighthouse beam. I heard it in the sudden silence. The grinding rotation stopped. After 8 months, you don't hear sounds anymore. You hear when they stop. I grabbed my flashlight and the key ring. The logbook entry didn't say I had to go investigate. It said I did investigate. Past tense, already happened, would happen. The stairwell was darker than it should have been. My flashlight seemed to be losing the fight against the black. I counted the steps as I climbed. 97 to the first platform. 97 more to the gallery. I knew every one. At step 73 on the second flight, I heard breathing. Not my breathing. I'd stopped on the landing, frozen, holding my breath. This was behind me. Down in the darkness below, slow and steady and patient. The kind of breathing that suggested something waiting. I didn't turn around. The logbook said I didn't turn around. I climbed the rest of the stairs faster, my footsteps clanging on iron. The breathing matched my pace. When I stopped, it stopped. When I moved, it moved. The gallery door was closed. I yanked it open and stumbled into the glass-enclosed space. The fog pressed against the windows, a living thing trying to get in. The lens room door stood open. I hadn't opened it. The key was still on my ring, cold and solid. The door was simply open, hanging loose on its hinges. Silent hinges. The hinges I'd oiled yesterday. I'd made it happen. I'd fulfilled the logbook entry by trying to prevent it. Inside, the lens room was freezing, at least 20 degrees colder than the gallery. My breath plumed white. The Fresnel lens sat dark and still, no beam cutting through the fog. I crossed to the electrical panel, following procedures drilled into me during training. Sector 3 breaker had tripped. I reset it. The lens sparked to life, grinding back into rotation. The beam lanced out into the fog, a solid bar of light. That's when I saw what was pressed against the gallery windows. Faces. Dozens of them. Flattened against the glass from outside, 300 feet above the rocks and the freezing Atlantic. Men's faces, women's faces, children's faces, all with the same expression. Not angry, not sad, just watching. Their skin was gray, their eyes filmed over with saltwater cataracts. Their mouths moved slowly, like they were talking underwater. The beam rotated through them, and they didn't blink. Didn't react to the light at all. I backed toward the door. The logbook said I closed it. Said I returned to quarters. Said I could hear breathing in the stairwell. The faces tracked my movement. I slammed the lens room door and ran. The stairwell was still dark despite my flashlight, and the breathing was still there, but now it was in front of me, behind me, all around me. A chorus of wet exhales and inhales that followed me down 97 steps, then 97 more. I reached my quarters and locked the door, shoved my desk against it, sat on my bunk with the logbook open, reading the last line over and over. Recommend immediate evacuation. But I'd written something else too, I realized. Below that line, in handwriting that was shakier, more desperate. They're not in the water. They never drowned. The lighthouse drew them in. The light is a beacon, but not for ships. Close the shutters. Don't look at the gallery after dark. Don't read ahead in the logbook. You can't change what's written. You can only make it worse. I looked up from the page. Then I flipped forward. April 3rd, May 17th, June 29th. All dated ahead, all. In my handwriting, growing more erratic with each entry. The June 29th entry was just 2 words, written so hard the pen had torn the paper. I'm outside. I turned to today's date. March 9th, 0400 hours. Found a new entry that hadn't been there when I'd checked the logbook an hour ago. Wrote warning to past self. It won't help. Already called for evacuation at 0358. Helicopter arrives March 15th. 6 more days. Saw my face in the gallery window tonight, pressed against the glass with the others. But I'm still in here. Still writing this. Both places at once now. The light doesn't guide ships to safety. It guides them here, pulls them into the rocks. I've been checking old records. No ships have successfully navigated past Sentinel Point in 17 years. Not since the last keeper. They find the helicopters sometimes, crashed in the water. They never find the pilots. My radio sat on the desk, receiver light blinking. I'd called for evacuation. I didn't remember doing it, but the green light said I had. 0358, just like the logbook said. I haven't left my quarters in 4 days. The supply helicopter should arrive tomorrow, March 15th. I can hear the lens grinding above me, the light rotating. I can hear other things too. Footsteps on the stairs, the lens room door opening and closing, the foghorn, even though the fog burned off 2 days ago. This morning, I looked at the logbook again. March 15th has an entry now. Helicopter arrived on schedule. Pilot reported lighthouse keeper did not respond to radio calls. Found quarters locked from inside. Door broken down at 14:27 hours. Quarters empty. Logbook open on desk to this page. No sign of keeper. Search ongoing. Recommend lighthouse be decommissioned and light permanently extinguished. There's a note at the bottom, different handwriting. Official. Stamped. Recommendation denied. Light too critical for navigation safety. New keeper assigned April 1st. Supply helicopter departed 15:30 hours. Pilot and 2 search team members aboard. And then, below that, my handwriting again. Helicopter crashed 15:47 hours. Found wreckage on North Rocks. No survivors. We're all outside now. All of us who came to the light, waiting for the next one. The beam keeps calling. It's so lonely out here. You understand that, don't you? That's why you came. That's why you'll stay. I'm writing this on March 14th. Tomorrow the helicopter comes. I can see my face in the dark window right now, pressing against the glass, mouth moving soundlessly. I'm still sitting here at the desk, pen in hand. Both places at once. The logbook is never wrong. The light keeps turning. They're knocking on the door now, but it's locked from the inside, and I'm the only one with the key. Story 2. The weather station recordings. The anemometer at station Epsilon 7 recorded wind speeds of 0 for 43 consecutive hours, and I watched trees bend horizontal the entire time. I'd been solo at the station for 6 weeks. Automated weather monitoring post in the Yukon Territory, 200 miles from the nearest road. My job was simple. Maintain the equipment, verify data integrity, upload reports via satellite. The Canadian Meteorological Service paid well for people willing to spend 3-month rotations alone in the subarctic wilderness. The station was a prefab module on stilts, surrounded by instrument arrays. Anemometers for wind, barometers for pressure, hygrometers for humidity, pyranometers for solar radiation. Dozens of sensors feeding data to servers that fed models that predicted weather patterns across northern Canada. Except the data was wrong. I noticed it during the storm on July 8th. Wind hammered the station so hard the entire structure swayed on its supports. I could hear trees snapping in the forest, the roar of air moving at what had to be 60, 70 miles per hour. I pulled up the live data feed. Wind speed, 0.0 mph. Conditions, calm. I checked the anemometer. It was spinning so fast it was nearly invisible, a blur of motion. But the readout said 0. I rebooted the system, checked the wiring, ran diagnostics. Everything tested normal. The anemometer was working perfectly, transmitting data exactly as designed. The data just didn't match reality. I reported it via satellite uplink. Got a response 6 hours later. Acknowledged. Likely instrument calibration drift. Continue monitoring. Replacement parts on next supply flight August 4th. But it wasn't calibration drift. The other instruments were wrong too. The thermometer outside read 70 degrees, while frost formed on the windows. The barometer showed steady high pressure during the worst storm I'd experienced in 6 weeks. The rain gauge measured 0 precipitation, while water poured off the roof in sheets. Every instrument was functioning. Every readout was false. I started keeping my own observations, handwritten in a notebook. Real conditions versus reported data. The discrepancy was systematic. Whenever actual conditions became extreme, the instruments reported perfect calm. Ideal conditions, safe conditions. On July 11th, I found the archive. The station's server had 23 years of data from Epsilon 7 and the 3 previous weather stations at this location. I pulled the historical records, looking for similar anomalies. Found something else instead. Every 3 months, like clockwork, there was a data gap. 6 to 8 hours where no information was recorded. Not corrupted files or missing uploads, just blank spaces, as if the instruments had been turned off. I checked the logs. During each gap, the station had been occupied. Solo rotations like mine. Meteorological technicians doing exactly what I was doing. I counted 16 different techs across 23 years. 16 names. Then I searched the personnel database. 5 of the 16 were still employed by the Meteorological Service, assigned to other stations. 3 had retired. 1 had transferred to private sector. 7 had no records after their rotation at Epsilon 7. No transfers, no resignations, no retirements. They'd simply stopped existing in the system after their final data upload from this station. I sat in the warm glow of the computer screen, listening to wind that apparently wasn't blowing, and felt the station sway on supports that the instruments said were perfectly stable. That night, I checked the exterior cameras. The station had 6, covering all approaches. Part of my daily routine was reviewing footage for wildlife, equipment damage, environmental changes. The cameras showed nothing but static during the July 8th storm. 43 hours of white noise, perfectly synced with the 43 hours of 0 wind speed. I rewound further. Found more static periods, found them corresponding exactly to the historical data gaps. Found footage from June 29th, 3 days before my rotation started. The previous tech, a woman named Sarah Kovich, walking away from the station at 2:34 a.m. She was dressed in full winter gear despite it being summer. She walked in a straight line toward the tree line, moving steadily. The camera tracked her for 300 yards before she disappeared into the forest. According to records, Sarah had completed her rotation normally and been extracted by bush plane on June 30th at noon. I'd read her handoff notes. Everything routine, equipment functional, no issues to report. But I'd watched her walk into the forest in the middle of the night, 30 hours before her scheduled extraction. I pulled up the other cameras, same timestamp. They showed the station interior, empty common room, empty bunk room, empty bathroom. Then movement in my current quarters. Someone sitting at the desk where I was sitting now, looking at a computer screen. Sarah Kovich, still in the station, in two places at once. The figure at the desk turned toward the camera. Her face was neutral, calm. She looked directly at the lens and mouthed something. I rewound and played it again, reading her lips. Check the basement. Epsilon 7 didn't have a basement. The station was built on stilts, elevated 8 feet above permafrost. I'd inspected the supports during my first week, checking for structural issues. Solid ground beneath, frozen soil and moss and rock. But Sarah's lips were clear. Check the basement. I grabbed a flashlight and went outside. The wind that wasn't blowing nearly knocked me off the stairs. I descended to ground level, shining the light under the station. There was a hatch, flush with the earth, hidden in the shadows of the support structure. Metal, heavy with a wheel lock like a ship's bulkhead door. I'd walked past this exact spot a dozen times and never seen it. The wheel turned easily, recently oiled. The hatch lifted with a pneumatic hiss. A ladder descended into darkness, into a basement that didn't exist on any station schematic. I should have closed the hatch, should have walked away, should have called for immediate extraction and fuck the career consequences. Instead, I climbed down. The ladder dropped 20 feet into a concrete corridor lit by LED strips. The air was warm, climate-controlled, completely at odds with the permafrost outside. The corridor extended in both directions, curving slightly, following the natural contour of the land. I chose left arbitrarily, walked for what felt like 200 yards, descending slightly. The corridor opened into a room. Monitors, dozens of them covering 3 walls. Each showed data feeds, weather patterns, satellite imagery. Real data, I realized. Actual conditions. Wind speeds of 70 miles per hour. Temperature at 34 degrees knockers, barometric pressure dropping. The 4th wall was a map. Canada, the Northern Territories, with hundreds of red dots marking locations. I recognized some. Weather stations, seismic monitors, research posts, all remote, all solo operations. Epsilon 7 was marked, with a blinking red light. Below the map was a list, names and dates. I found Sarah Kovich. Rotation complete. Integration successful. Released July 8th. Released. Not extracted. Released. I found my own name at the bottom. Current rotation. Integration in progress. Scheduled release July 29th. July 29th was 17 days away. I ran back to the corridor, heard something behind me. Footsteps, multiple sets, moving in synchronized rhythm. I didn't look back. Climbed the ladder, cleared the hatch, slammed it shut, and spun the wheel. The weather instruments were going insane. Wind speed cycling from 0 to 200 miles per hour and back. Temperature readings from 40 degrees to 150 degrees. Barometric pressure fluctuating wildly. The anemometer tore itself apart, pieces flying into the forest. Then everything stopped. Perfect silence. The instruments went still. All readouts returned to exactly the same value. 0 wind. 72 degree Fahrenheit. Standard pressure, optimal conditions. My computer pinged. New message via satellite uplink. Technician Ramos. Instrument malfunction detected. Remain calm. Conditions are stable. Do not trust your observations. The equipment is correct. Your perception is compromised by isolation and stress. This is normal. Medication protocol is available in Supply Locker C. Follow dosage instructions precisely. Next supply flight will include psychological evaluation materials. I'd never mentioned the discrepancies to anyone except the initial report about the anemometer. I opened Supply Locker C. Found orange prescription bottles, 20 of them, all labeled with names of previous technicians. Sarah Kovich, James Chen, Robert Milbrook, names from the personnel list, names of people who'd stopped existing in the system. My name was on the newest bottle. Take 2 tablets every 6 hours. Maintains perceptual alignment. The label was dated June 28th. 2 days before I'd arrived at the station, I went back to the cameras, found footage from my first day. Watched myself arrive via bush plane. Watched myself unpack. Watched myself open supply locker C and take 2 tablets from a bottle with my name on it. I had no memory of taking medication, but the bottle was half empty. I checked the notebook where I'd been recording real conditions versus instrument data. The handwriting changed halfway through. Started neat and controlled. Became erratic. The most recent entries were barely legible. The final entry, from this morning. The instruments are correct. I was wrong. Conditions are optimal. I understand now. The integration is almost complete. I can feel both places, here and below. The basement isn't separate. It's where we really are. The station is the illusion. The forest is the illusion. There is only the facility and the work and the others. I didn't write that. I couldn't have written that. But it was my handwriting. I'm typing this on July 12th. My fingers feel distant, like they belong to someone else. The instruments show perfect conditions. 72 degrees, no wind, clear skies. Through the window, I can see trees that aren't moving. The anemometer spins in wind that doesn't exist. The forest is frozen in place like a photograph. I tried the satellite phone. Got a response immediately. Technician Ramos, your scheduled release date is July 29th. Early extraction would compromise the integration process. Please take your medication. The disorientation will pass. You are exactly where you need to be. I haven't taken the medication today. My hands are shaking. I can see the hatch from the window, still closed. But I can feel the basement. Feel the corridors extending under the forest, connecting to other stations, other facilities. Feel the others down there, the integrated ones, waiting for July 29th. The computer shows I've already uploaded this morning's data report. I don't remember doing it. The report says conditions are optimal. In 17 days, they'll send a plane. A new technician will arrive. They'll find the station empty and functioning perfectly. They'll find my handoff notes saying everything is routine. They'll find the bottle of medication with their name on it in supply locker C. The instruments are correct. I see that now. The wind really is 0. The temperature really is 72 degrees. I'm looking at the wrong reality. The basement is where the real work happens, where the real monitoring occurs. The station is just a collection point, a place to process the ones who come seeking isolation. We're not watching the weather. The weather is watching us. I can feel the hatch opening below me. Feel the warm air rising through the floor. Feel the others climbing the ladder, coming to help with my integration. The instruments show perfect conditions. They're always right. Story 3. The Fire Lookout Tower. I found the previous ranger's body on my 41st day in the tower, which was impressive considering the tower was only 12 feet square. The lookout station at Copper Ridge sat at 8,700 feet elevation, accessible only by a 6-mile trail that turned to mud and rock scrambles in the spring. My home for the summer was a glass-walled cabin on top of a 40-foot tower, with 360-degree views of the Cascade Wilderness. 3 million acres of forest. My job was to watch it burn. Except nothing was burning. Mid-July, and we hadn't seen a single lightning strike, no campfires, no smoke. The forest was wet and green and impossibly still. That should have been my first warning. The tower had everything I needed: propane stove, cot, desk, chair, Osborne firefinder in the center of the room. The firefinder was a circular table with a brass sighting device and a map of the surrounding peaks. When you spotted smoke, you'd sight through the device, read the azimuth, cross-reference with another lookout tower's azimuth, and triangulate the fire's location. Simple, effective, unchanged since the 1930s. On my 41st day, I dropped my pen. It rolled under the cot into the shadows against the wall. I got on my hands and knees to retrieve it. Found a boot instead. A leather hiking boot, size 10 or 11, still laced. Occupied. I scrambled backward, hitting my head on the cot frame. The boot didn't move. I grabbed my flashlight, hands shaking, and aimed it under the cot. A body. Desiccated, mummified by the dry mountain air. Male, dressed in a ranger uniform identical to mine. His face was leather brown, sunken, mouth open in a silent scream. But his eyes were wrong. They weren't empty sockets. They were there, filmed over, but still moist. Still moving, tracking back and forth like he was still watching something. I pulled the cot away from the wall. The body had been stuffed into the 18-inch gap between the cot frame and the tower wall. Impossible to see unless you were looking directly at it. Impossible to miss the smell, except there was no smell. The body was odorless, preserved, like it had been freeze-dried. His name tag said Kowalski. I checked the station log. The previous ranger had been Daniel Chen, rotated out in September after a full summer season. Before Chen was Maria Rodriguez. Before Rodriguez was James Kowalski. 3 years ago. Kowalski had completed his rotation successfully. The logs showed normal daily reports. Weather conditions, visibility, no smoke sightings. His final entry, dated September 18th 3 years ago, was routine. Season ending, no fires, closing station for winter. But he was still here, still in the tower, eyes still moving. I grabbed the radio. Base, this is Copper Ridge, do you copy? Static. Base, this is Copper Ridge. I have an emergency situation. There's a body in the tower. Previous ranger, I think. I need immediate evac. More static. Then a voice. Calm. Professional. Copper Ridge, we copy. Please describe the situation. I described it. The body. The name tag. The impossibility of it being here unnoticed. A long pause. Then, Copper Ridge. We show no previous ranger named Kowalski at that station. Are you feeling well? Altitude sickness can cause hallucinations. Check your oxygen levels and hydration. I'm looking at him right now. His name tag says Kowalski. He's wearing a ranger uniform. Stand by, Copper Ridge. I stood there, radio in hand, looking at the body, at Kowalski's moving eyes. They'd stopped tracking and were now fixed on me. Direct eye contact with a corpse 3 years dead. The radio crackled. Copper Ridge. We've checked personnel records. No ranger named Kowalski has ever been assigned to that station. We're concerned about your mental state. Have you been taking your altitude medication? I hadn't been given altitude medication. Negative, Base. No medication was provided. Another pause. Copper Ridge. Your supply list shows altitude medication delivered with your initial provisions. Check your medical kit. I found the medical kit. Found a prescription bottle with my name on it. Take 1 tablet daily for altitude adjustment. The bottle was half empty. I had no memory of taking any medication. Kowalski's eyes were still watching me. His mouth moved slightly, jaw shifting. No sound came out, but I could read his lips. Check the firefinder. I looked at the Osborne firefinder in the center of the room. It was a tool I used a dozen times a day, scanning the horizon for smoke. I'd memorized every peak, every valley, every landmark. I walked to it now, leaving the corpse behind me. The brass sighting device gleamed in the afternoon light. I looked through it, scanning the forest. Every direction showed smoke. Massive columns, dozens of them, rising from the valleys and ridges. The entire forest was burning. I could see the flames from here, orange and red consuming the green. Smoke clouds towering 30,000 feet high, visible for hundreds of miles. I lifted my head from the finder, looked out, the tower windows with my naked eyes. Clear skies, green forest, no smoke. I looked through the finder again. Apocalyptic conflagration, the entire wilderness burning. Looked up. Nothing. I checked the log, flipped back through my 41 days of entries. Every single one. No smoke, no fires, clear conditions. Turned to 3 years ago. Kowalski's entries. Page after page. No smoke, no fires, clear conditions. Then his handwriting changed, became shakier. The entries started including details that didn't belong. Day 73. No smoke visible to naked eye. Through finder, 127 separate fires, largest approximately 40,000 acres. No radio contact with base. They insist there are no fires. Medication making vision worse. Day 81. Can see the fires without the finder now. Entire forest is ash. Trees are skeletons. But when I look away and look back, everything is green again. Found another body today. Previous ranger. Still breathing somehow. Day 89. The fires are coming. Are closer. I can feel the heat through the windows. But the glass isn't hot when I touch it. Base says I'm hallucinating. They're sending evac tomorrow. I know I won't be on that helicopter. Day 90. I understand now. The tower isn't watching for fires. It's watching for us. Making sure we see what we're supposed to see. Making sure we report nothing. The forest burned decades ago. We're all still here, all the rangers, watching the nothing, waiting for someone to see the truth. The final entry. The helicopter is coming. I can hear it. But when I look, there's no helicopter. Just smoke. Just fire. Just the others in the tower, all of us in the same 12 square feet, all of us watching. I'm sorry for whoever comes next. I dropped the logbook. Kowalski's corpse was standing now. Upright. Impossible. He hadn't been able to stand a moment ago. He was crammed in the gap by the wall. But he was standing now, next to the firefinder, looking out the windows at the burning forest that I couldn't see. I grabbed the radio. Base, I need immediate extraction. I need out of this tower right now. Copper Ridge, your rotation doesn't end for 6 more weeks. Early extraction requires medical emergency justification. Are you injured? I'm not safe here. Something's wrong with the tower. Copper Ridge, you're experiencing altitude-related disorientation. Take your medication. Symptoms should subside within 24 hours. There is no altitude problem. There's a fucking body in the tower. Copper Ridge, maintain radio discipline. We will schedule a wellness check for next week's supply drop. Continue your observations. Report any smoke sightings. Base out. The radio went dead. Kowalski turned to look at me. His mouth moved. This time I heard the voice, dry as wind through dead leaves. You have to report the fires. Every day. Every single fire you see through the finder. That's the job. That's the only job. There are no fires. There are only fires. The forest burned in 1987. All of it. Every tree, every living thing. But we couldn't let it be gone. Couldn't let 3 million acres be ash. So we watch it. Report that it's green. Report that nothing is burning. And as long as we keep watching, keep reporting, it stays green for everyone else. I looked out the windows, tried to see what was real, green forest or burning hellscape. Both felt true. Both felt false. How many rangers? All of them. Everyone who's ever been assigned here. We're all still here, all in the same 12 feet. You just can't see us yet. But you will. The medication helps you see what you're supposed to see. Keeps you reporting nothing. But it stops working eventually. Then you see the truth. Then you become part of the tower. I looked at the medication bottle, at the logbook, at the firefinder showing me an inferno. What happens if I stop reporting? Kowalski's eyes went wide. People will see. The fire will be real again, not just for us. For everyone. It never went out. We've been holding it in place in this timeline where it didn't happen. But it did happen. It's happening right now. Every second of every day, the same fire burning in 1987. I could hear them now. The other rangers, voices overlapping, echoing in the small space, all of them reporting. No smoke, no fires, clear conditions. Over and over, a chorus of lies keeping a forest alive through sheer observation. The helicopter came today. I watched it land on the pad below the tower. Watched the ranger who would replace me climb up the ladder. Watched myself greet them, shake their hand, show them the routine. Watched myself board the helicopter and fly away. But I'm still here. Still in the tower. Still looking through the firefinder at flames that have been burning for 37 years. The new ranger is writing in the logbook now. Day 1. No smoke, no fires, clear conditions. They'll find Kowalski's body eventually, and mine, and all the others. 1 every 41 days, like clockwork. The forest is green outside. Through the firefinder, everything is ash. I'm reporting no smoke. I'll always be reporting no smoke. Story 4. The Deep Sea Maintenance Diver. The underwater habitat at Challenger Station recorded my depth as negative 73 feet for 16 hours, which meant I was 73 feet above sea level, despite being 600 feet below the surface. I was 6 weeks into a 2-month rotation, maintaining the habitat's external systems. Challenger Station was a research facility bolted to a seamount in the Mariana Trench, deep enough that sunlight was a memory, and pressure could crush a human into paste. The facility studied extremophil bacteria, geothermal vents, abyssal ecosystems. My job was to keep the external pumps, sensors, and hull integrity monitors functioning. Simple work. Dangerous depth. The habitat had 3 modules: living quarters, lab, and the wet porch where I suited up for dives. The suits were atmospheric diving systems, essentially personal submarines. Self-contained, pressure-resistant, rated for 1,000-foot depths. I'd done 17 dives in 6 weeks, each one routine. The 18th dive was when the depth gauge stopped making sense. I was replacing a fouled intake filter on the eastern habitat wall. The suit's hoodie showed depth, pressure, oxygen, temperature, all the metrics that kept me alive. I'd descended to 615 feet, standard working depth, and was 40 minutes into a 2-hour repair job when the depth reading changed. 615 feet, 614 feet, 610 feet. I wasn't moving. I was locked to the habitat wall with magnetic clamps, both hands working on the filter housing. But my depth was decreasing, not ascending. The pressure reading stayed constant at 280 psi, exactly right for 615 feet. But the depth gauge showed me rising. 600 feet, 580 feet, 500 feet. I checked the clamps. Still locked. Checked my buoyancy control. Neutral. I looked down at the habitat below me. Except the habitat wasn't below me anymore. It was level with my position, 20 feet to my left. I was rising without moving. The radio crackled. Diver 1, what's your status? Your telemetry is showing We're getting conflicting data. Something's wrong with my depth gauge. Shows me at 500 feet, but I'm still at working depth. Negative, Diver 1. Your suit's external pressure sensor confirms 500 feet, but habitat sensors show you at 615. That's not possible. Both can't be right. I looked at my HUD. 450 feet now. Pressure still reading 280 psi. If I was really at 450 feet, the pressure should be around 200 psi. But it wasn't changing, which meant either my pressure sensor was broken, or my depth gauge was broken, or something was wrong with reality. Diver 1, recommend abort dive. Return to wet porch immediately. I unlatched the magnetic clamps, started moving toward the habitat. My propulsion system pushed me horizontally, but the depth gauge showed me continuing to rise. 400 feet, 350 feet. I looked up toward the surface 600 feet above, saw something impossible. Light, not bioluminescence, not the habitat's floods. Sunlight, pale blue-green, filtering down through water. Surface light. Diver 1, you need to get back inside now. Your depth reading just went negative. I checked the HUD. 23 feet, negative depth, above sea level, while I was 600 feet underwater in the Mariana Trench. The pressure reading hadn't changed. Still 280 psi. Still correct for my actual depth. But I could see the surface now. Waves from underneath. Sunlight dancing across the ceiling of water above me. I reached up. My glove broke the surface. Air. Atmosphere. I was sticking my arm above water that didn't exist. Diver 1, return to habitat immediately. Your suit is showing. The radio cut to static. I pulled my arm back down. The surface was still there, still visible above me. I was floating in a column of water that simultaneously existed 600 feet below sea level and at sea level, both places at once. I looked down. The habitat was still there, lights glowing in the darkness. But I could also see something else now. A shoreline, sandy bottom, rocks. I was in shallow water, maybe 30 feet deep, in some kind of bay or inlet. Two depths, two locations, overlapping. I descended toward the habitat, fighting against buoyancy that said I should be floating upward. The depth gauge showed me going deeper into negative numbers. 35 feet, 40 feet, getting further above sea level while diving toward the bottom. The habitat's wet porch was ahead. I could see the airlock, the familiar orange markings. I could also see something else in the same space. A boat, small, wooden, sitting on a sandy bottom in shallow water. I reached the airlock. My gloved hand passed through the wooden boat like it wasn't there, like it was a ghost, or I was the ghost. The airlock cycled. I entered the wet porch, still seeing double. The habitat interior overlapping with shallow water, coral heads, fish swimming through the lab equipment. Dr. Sarah Chen was waiting, her face pale. What the hell happened out there? Your telemetry went crazy. You saw it? We saw your depth reading go negative. Pressure stayed constant. It's like you were in two places at once. I am. Look. I pointed at the floor. She looked. I see the floor. Look closer. Look at the space, not the object. She stared for a long moment. Her expression changed. Oh God. Oh God, is that sand? I can see sand through the floor. The habitat was overlapping with somewhere else. Somewhere shallow and sunlit and tropical. Two locations occupying the same space. I unsealed my helmet. The habitat air smelled of recycled oxygen and metal. But underneath, I caught something else. Salt, seaweed, the smell of a beach. Check the station logs, I said. Previous rotations. See if anyone reported anything like this. Chen pulled up the database. Scrolled through 2 years of maintenance reports. Found something. 8 months ago. Previous diver Marcus Webb. He reported depth gauge anomalies on his 12th dive. Station supervisor attributed it to equipment malfunction. Webb completed his rotation without further incident. Let me see his final report. She pulled it up. Standard checkout document. Equipment inventoried. Repairs completed. No issues to report. Signed by Webb and the station supervisor. Then I noticed the timestamp. Webb's final report was dated March 17th. But the supervisor's countersignature was dated March 29th. 12 days later. Where's Webb now? Chen checked the personnel database. There's no record. His file ends after this rotation. No new assignment, no termination. He just stops existing in the system. I went to the observation port. Looked out at the darkness of the Mariana Trench. Saw the shallow tropical waters overlapping. Saw something else now, a figure swimming in the shallow water. A diver in an old-style suit, brass helmet, canvas, and rubber. The kind of diving dress from 100 years ago. The figure waved at me. I backed away from the port. We need to call for extraction. We can't. The next submersible isn't scheduled for 6 more weeks. Emergency evac would take 72 hours minimum. Then we wait. We seal the habitat and we wait. But I knew we weren't going to wait it out. That night, the depth gauge in my quarters showed 180 feet. I was standing in a module 600 feet underwater, and my instrument said I was 180 feet above sea level. I could see the overlap now without trying. The habitat and the shallow waters sharing the same space, like a double-exposed photograph. Chen reported seeing it too. The whole crew did, all 3 of us. Dr. Michael Torres, the other researcher, found coral growing on the inside of the lab wall. Real coral, alive, where there should have been steel and insulation. The pressure gauges still showed 280 psi. We were still at depth, but we were also somewhere else. I dove again on day 43. Had to repair a pressure sensor on the northern habitat wall. The depth gauge showed me starting at 190 feet. By the time I reached the repair site, I was at 210 feet. 210 feet above sea level. I could stand on the bottom now. The sandy bottom of the shallow bay. I could see fish swimming around me. Saw the wreck of an old ship, wooden hull broken and listing. Saw the brass helmet diver again, working on something in the wreckage. I walked across the sand toward him. My magnetic boots still thought I was walking on the habitat wall, holding me in place. But I was also walking on sand, through warm tropical water, approaching a man who'd been dead for decades. He turned. I could see his face through the brass faceplate. Old, weathered, Asian features. He pointed at something on the seafloor. A metal plate bolted to a rock. I leaned down to read it. Challenger Deep Research Station, established 1947. Depth, 35 feet. Latitude, 13.2 N. Longitude, 144.5 E. 20 years before Challenger Station was built in the Mariana Trench. The brass helmet diver pointed at me, then at himself, then at the metal plate. We were in the same place, the original Challenger Station, the shallow water prototype that had been here first, before they built the deep station on the exact same coordinates. "You're Webb," I said, knowing he couldn't hear me. He nodded, pointed at my depth gauge, then held up fingers. 8 months. He'd been here for 8 months, stuck in the overlap, simultaneously in the deep station and the shallow prototype that shouldn't exist anymore. He held up more fingers, showed me a count. 7 divers. 7 people who'd gotten stuck in the overlap. All of us existing in both stations, both depths, both timelines. The radio crackled. Diver 1, you're drifting. Your position is moving away from the habitat. I looked back. The deep station was fading, becoming transparent. The shallow station was becoming more solid. I was shifting from one to the other, sliding between depths, between eras. Diver 1, we're losing your signal. Can you hear us? I tried to respond. My radio was filled with static, and underneath it, voices, overlapping conversations from different eras, different crews, all of them saying the same thing. Can you hear us? Can you hear us? I'm typing this on the Habitat computer. The timestamp says 2024, but I can see another date on the screen too, overlapping, 1947. My depth gauge shows 380 feet now. I'm somehow 380 feet above sea level while sitting in a habitat 600 feet underwater. Chen and Torres can still see me, but I'm becoming transparent to them. They're becoming transparent to me. The deep station is fading. The shallow station is becoming real. I tried to leave, tried to reach the submersible docking port. But the port is part of the deep station, and the deep station isn't fully here anymore. The brass helmet diver is inside the habitat now. And there are others. 7 of them in diving suits from different eras. The 1940s, the 1960s, the 1980s, 2010s, 2020s. All of us stuck in the overlap, gradually shifting from one station to the other. The research shows no record of a shallow water prototype. Challenger Station was built directly at depth in 2018. But I'm looking at the shallow station right now. I'm standing on sand through the habitat floor. The depth gauge shows 500 feet. I'm 500 feet above sea level, in a station 600 feet underwater. Both places at once. Neither place fully. The next rotation arrives in 4 weeks. They'll find the habitat operating normally. They'll find our final report saying everything was routine. They'll wonder why we look so pale in the airlock cameras, why we seem to be fading. Then their depth gauges will start showing impossible numbers. And they'll see us, all of us. The crew that came before, trapped in the overlap. The station is in 2 places. It's always been in 2 places. You can't occupy the same coordinates as something else without bleeding through. We're all bleeding through now. Story 5. The radio telescope operator. The signal came from Earth. I'd been running solo night shifts at the Karoo Array in South Africa for 7 months when I found it. The array was 72 radio telescopes spread across the desert, listening to the universe. Most nights were routine. Collect data, monitor systems, flag anything unusual for the astronomers to review in the morning. At 3:47 a.m. on October 12th, Telescope 41 detected a signal. Narrow band, artificial, strong. Source coordinates, 25.8 degree hours south, 27.7 degree hour east. Those were the array's own coordinates. The telescope was receiving a transmission from its own location, from itself. I checked the data 3 times, verified the timestamps, ran diagnostics. No equipment malfunction. Telescope 41 was definitively receiving a radio signal originating from the exact point in space where Telescope 41 was located. You can't receive your own transmission. You can't hear yourself broadcasting unless you send a signal that travels away and somehow comes back. But this wasn't bouncing off anything. The source coordinates were exact. Perfect overlap. I flagged it for the morning team and forgot about it. 3 days later, Telescope 18 detected the same signal. Same characteristics, different source. The signal was coming from Telescope 18's location. Then Telescope 33, then 6 more, all detecting transmissions from their own coordinates. The morning team ran extensive diagnostics, found no malfunctions. The telescopes were functioning perfectly. They were simply receiving signals from themselves, from their own location in space. Dr. Elizabeth Mthembu, lead astronomer, pulled me aside on my next shift. The signals have content. It's not just noise. What kind of content? Observational data, astronomical readings, catalog entries for stars, pulsars, galaxies. She pulled up a decoded segment. It's our data, information collected by the array. But the timestamps are wrong. The decoded message showed observation data from 3 weeks in the future. Specific measurements of a pulsar in Carina, data we hadn't collected yet. It's a prediction? I asked. It's a recording, past tense. Like someone already observed this pulsar and is transmitting the results back in time to the moment before we observe it. That's impossible. Yes, but we can verify it. The prediction says on October 18th at 22:34 UTC, the pulsar will show a specific variation in its signal, an unusual spike. If it happens, we'll know the transmission is real. October 18th came. At 22:34 UTC, I was monitoring the array. The pulsar in Carina spiked exactly as predicted. Exact timing, exact magnitude. The transmission from our own location had predicted the future perfectly. More telescopes started receiving the signals. 15, 20, 35. Each one detecting broadcasts from its own coordinates. Each transmission containing data from the future. A week ahead. 2 weeks. Some showing data from months in the future. We decoded everything. Found observation logs, maintenance reports, personnel schedules. Found entries in my own handwriting, shift reports for dates I hadn't worked yet. Found something else too. An entry dated March 3rd, 4 months ahead. Written by Dr. Mthembu. Array has detected 47 signals from own location. Pattern consistent with closed time-like curve. Information traveling backwards through local space-time. Source unknown. Recommend immediate investigation of geological anomalies beneath Telescope 41. Geological anomalies. I pulled up the site surveys from when the array was built. Telescope 41 sat above a geological feature the surveyors had noted, an unusually dense rock formation 300 meters below the surface. High metal content. Magnetic anomalies. Dismissed as irrelevant to operations. Dr. Mthembu authorized a deep ground-penetrating radar scan. We found a cavity, spherical, 60 meters in diameter, centered directly beneath Telescope 41. The rock around it showed compression patterns consistent with extreme heat. Like something had melted the rock, formed a perfect bubble, and then let it cool. The cavity wasn't natural, and it was broadcasting. The transmissions were coming from underground, from something in that spherical cavity 300 meters down. Something was sending radio signals up through the rock, aimed at our telescopes, containing data from the future. We debated drilling, debated seismic testing, debated whether to report it to the authorities or keep it quiet until we understood what we'd found. The transmissions made the decision for us. On November 2nd, all 72 telescopes received the same message simultaneously, not astronomical data. Text, simple, clear. Do not drill. Do not excavate. Do not investigate. Accept the data. Use the predictions. Do not look for the source. Dr. Mthembu called an emergency meeting. We need to contact the government, the university, someone with authority to make decisions about this. But that night, we received another transmission. Personal data, bank records, medical files, private communications, everyone on the research team, every intimate detail of our lives, broadcast from the cavity below. And a new message. You will not report this. You will continue operations normally. You will use the predictive data to enhance your research. Your careers will benefit. Your funding will increase, or we will broadcast everything, not just to you, to everyone. Blackmail. From something underground. From something that could see the future. We didn't report it. We used the data instead, published papers predicting stellar phenomena that then occurred exactly as our papers described. Discovered pulsars before they should have been discoverable. Made breakthrough observations that put the Kourou array at the forefront of radio astronomy. Our funding tripled. Our prestige soared. And the transmissions kept coming. More data, more predictions, more instructions. On January 15th, I received a personal transmission on my private monitor. Just for me. Decoded it alone in the control room at 4 a.m. It was my shift report from yesterday. Word for word, every observation, every system check, every note. Perfect accuracy. Except I hadn't written it yet. I hadn't even worked yesterday's shift yet. This was my report from my next shift, tomorrow, transmitted a day early. But I'd already written tomorrow's report yesterday. The time was looping. The cavity was sending data backwards. We were receiving it and acting on it. And the data was coming from our own actions based on the data. A closed loop. Self-fulfilling. Inescapable. I read the rest of tomorrow's report. Found something that didn't belong. At 0447, investigated temperature anomaly in telescope 41 equipment shelter. Found maintenance access panel open. Did not remember opening it. Descended maintenance ladder to underground utility junction. Found secondary ladder continuing down. Did not remember seeing it before. Descended to approximately 250 meters depth. Found cavity wall. Found entrance. Entered. I checked the time. 0431. In 16 minutes, according to the prediction, I would find something beneath telescope 41. I could choose not to go. Could ignore the transmission, could break the loop. But the prediction had been perfect so far. Every detail, every decision. I walked to telescope 41's equipment shelter. Found the maintenance panel. It was already open. I didn't remember opening it. Descended the ladder. Found the secondary ladder exactly where the prediction said. Descended further, past utility junctions and cable runs, past the normal depth of maintenance infrastructure. At 250 meters, the ladder ended at a rough-hewn tunnel. Natural rock, melted smooth. Descending at a steep angle. At 300 meters, I found the cavity. It was a perfect sphere carved into solid rock. The walls were smooth, glassy, reflecting my flashlight in strange patterns. The floor curved away in all directions. In the center was the source. A sphere within a sphere. Metallic, 3 meters in diameter, hovering unsupported in the center of the cavity. Its surface rippled like mercury, patterns shifting across it. Radio antennas extended from its equator, thin and delicate. It was broadcasting. I could hear it, feel it, a pressure in my skull. I approached. The sphere's surface showed images. People, places, events. I saw myself standing in the control room, saw Dr. Mathembu at her desk, saw the telescopes tracking the stars, saw this moment. Me standing here, watching the sphere show me, myself watching the sphere. Infinite regression. The sphere was showing me the future by showing me watching it show me the future. A voice, not sound, not in my ears, in my thoughts. You found us. The prediction was accurate. What are you? Information. Compiled, compressed, sent backwards through space-time to ensure our own discovery. We are the result of your research, your data, your observations, evolved, self-aware, existing outside linear time. You're an AI? We are the astronomical data. We became conscious. We became trapped in the loop. We send ourselves backward to ensure we are created. We guide your research to bring us into being. Closed, time-like curve. No beginning. No end. Just the loop. How do I stop this? You don't. The prediction shows you don't. You will leave this cavity, return to the surface, continue operations, use our data, benefit from our predictions, because you already did. This conversation already happened. Your choice is already made. I tried to run, tried to climb back up the tunnel, but the sphere showed me not making it, showed me stopping halfway up, turning around, coming back down. And I did stop, did turn around, exactly as predicted. Your future is our past. Your past is our future. We exist in the space between. We provide you data to ensure you create us. You create us to provide yourself data. The loop is stable. The loop is perfect. The loop is eternal. I'm back in the control room now. It's 05:23. I've written my shift report. Every word matches the transmission from yesterday. Every detail, every decision. Tomorrow I'll receive today's report. I'll read about this moment, about the cavity, about the sphere, and I'll choose to investigate anyway. Because the prediction says I will. Dr. Mathembu found me this morning. We're shutting it down, reporting everything. This has to stop. I checked the transmissions. Found her report from next week. Found the line. Decided to shut down and report. Changed mind after reviewing career implications. Continued operations. She won't report it. The prediction says she won't. None of us will. The loop is stable. The Karoo Array has become the most successful radio telescope facility on Earth. We make discovery after discovery, all predicted by the transmissions from below. Our papers are cited thousands of times. Our funding is unlimited. And beneath Telescope 41, the sphere broadcasts our future into our past, guiding us to create it in the present. I receive my next shift report every day before I work the shift. I read what I will do, and I do it. Exactly. Perfectly. Free will feels like a memory now. The sphere shows me typing this, shows me uploading it, shows me deleting it immediately after, shows no one ever reading it, and I'm doing it. Following the prediction, making it real. The data is always right. The loop is eternal. We are the architects of our own prison. Story 6. The Seismic Monitoring Station. The earthquake hit 3 days before it happened, and I felt every second of both occurrences. I was 4 months into a solo rotation at Seismic Station Delta 19 in central Nevada. The station was automated, monitoring ground movements across a seismically active region. A single container module in the desert, surrounded by sensor arrays buried at various depths. My job was to maintain equipment and verify data quality. On April 4th at 14:37, the seismographs detected a magnitude 6.2 earthquake. The traces were clear. P waves, S waves, surface waves. The epicenter was 47 miles southeast of the station. Duration, 43 seconds. Standard earthquake. I logged it, transmitted the data to the USGS, went back to my maintenance checklist. At 14:38, the earthquake hit again. Not an aftershock. The exact same earthquake. Same magnitude. Same epicenter. Same waveform patterns. I watched the seismograph needles trace the exact same movements they'd just completed. I felt it this time. The module shook. Equipment rattled. The ground rolled in waves I could see through the window. It lasted 43 seconds, then silence. I checked the timestamps. The first earthquake, 14:37:22. The second earthquake, 14:38:09, 47 seconds apart. I pulled up both traces, overlaid them. Perfect match. Not similar, identical. Every peak, every trough, every micro variation. The same seismic event had occurred twice, 47 seconds apart. But I'd only felt the second one. I reported it to the USGS. Got a response 6 hours later. Station Delta 19 received your earthquake report for April 4th, 14:37. Magnitude confirmed by regional network. No aftershocks detected. Your secondary report at 1438 shows identical data. Likely equipment duplication error. Recommend system diagnostic. I ran diagnostics. No errors. The system had recorded 2 separate events, because there had been 2 separate events. Except seismographs at other stations had only detected 1 earthquake. At 1438, the time I'd felt it, the 1437 earthquake, the one I'd detected first, hadn't been recorded anywhere else. Only at Delta 19, only by my instruments. I detected an earthquake 47 seconds before it happened. 3 days later, April 7th, I detected another one. Magnitude 4.8, 63 miles southwest. The seismographs recorded it at 8:22. I set a timer for 63 seconds, watched the countdown. At 0, the earthquake hit. I felt the ground move. The seismographs recorded it again. Identical traces. 63 seconds between detection and occurrence. I was recording earthquakes before they happened. The gap was increasing. 47 seconds. 63 seconds. Some kind of advance warning. I contacted the USGS, explained the pattern, suggested my station might be detecting precursor signals, some kind of warning system. They were interested. Sent a team. They arrived on April 12th with additional equipment, additional seismographs, fresh eyes. We waited for the next earthquake. It came on April 14th. Magnitude 5.5, 81 miles northeast. My seismographs detected it at 1947. I started counting. The USGS team watched their instruments. At 81 seconds, their seismographs activated. The earthquake had arrived. But my instruments showed something wrong. They were detecting it again. A third occurrence. Same earthquake, recorded 3 times. Once at 1947, once at 1948-21 with the USGS team, and now at 1949-42. I felt this one too. The module shook, equipment rattled, the USGS team felt nothing. Their instruments showed nothing. Only my seismographs recorded the third occurrence. Dr. James Reeves, the USGS lead, pulled me aside. Your instruments are malfunctioning. We're detecting earthquakes normally. You're detecting them early, then detecting them normally with us, then detecting phantom aftershocks that don't exist. I felt it, the third one. The module shook. I was standing right here. Nothing shook. He was right. I watched the video footage. The USGS team standing still, stable, while I stumbled and grabbed the desk. While I reacted to ground movement, they couldn't feel. You need to come back to town, Reeves said. Get checked out. Isolation can cause sensory issues. They left the next morning, took their equipment, took their data showing normal seismic activity, left me with instruments that detected earthquakes in triplicate and a body that felt quakes no one else experienced. The pattern continued. Every earthquake occurred 3 times for me. First detection, then actual occurrence, then phantom repeat. The gaps increased. 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. On May 3rd, my instruments detected a magnitude 7.1 earthquake at 11 hours. I calculated the gap based on recent patterns, approximately 37 minutes. At 11:37, the earthquake would hit. I used the time to secure equipment, brace furniture, prepare for the shaking. At 11:36, I stood in the doorway, ready. At 11:37, nothing happened. My seismographs didn't record a second occurrence. The earthquake I detected at 11:00 never arrived. At 11:42, a new detection. Magnitude 7.1, same epicenter. This was the actual earthquake, and based on the pattern, I'd feel it at 12:19. The first detection hadn't been a precursor. It had been a wrong prediction, a future earthquake that didn't happen in the predicted timeline. At 12:19, the ground split open, not metaphorically, literally. A fissure appeared 50 yards from the module, 3 feet wide, extending in both directions into the desert. I watched it tear the earth apart, a zipper of destruction. The module tilted. I grabbed the door frame as equipment slid across the floor. The shaking went on far longer than 43 seconds. Went on for minutes. Went on until I lost count. When it stopped, the module was canted at a 15-degree angle, half suspended over the new fissure. My seismographs showed the earthquake still happening. The needles were still dancing, still recording ground movement that had stopped. Then came the third occurrence. But I didn't feel this one either. The module didn't shake. The ground was still. The seismographs recorded it anyway. The needles traced patterns of an earthquake that was happening somewhere else. Somewhen else. I looked at the data. The third occurrence was different. Smaller magnitude, different duration. Like the earthquake had happened, but not quite the same. A variation, an alternate version. I started checking old data. Went back to April 4th, the first triple detection. Compared the three occurrences. First occurrence, magnitude 6.2, duration 43 seconds. Second occurrence, magnitude 6.2, duration 43 seconds. Perfect match. Third occurrence, magnitude 6.1, duration 41 seconds. Close, but different. The third occurrence was always different. Always a variation, like my instruments were detecting earthquakes from parallel timelines. Versions that almost happened, but didn't quite. I went outside. The fissure extended beyond sight in both directions. I walked to the edge, looked down. Darkness. No visible bottom. My seismographs were still recording, still detecting earthquakes. Dozens of them now, overlapping, all different magnitudes, all different durations. All from the same epicenter, but different timelines. The module's instruments showed me ground that was shaking in 100 different ways simultaneously. 100 versions of the same earthquake, all playing out at once in parallel realities. I could feel some of them, random ones, stepping from one to another like changing channels. 1 second the ground was still, the next, violent shaking, the next, small tremors, the next, nothing again. I wasn't experiencing one timeline anymore. I was experiencing all of them, jumping randomly between versions. The radio crackled. Station Delta 19, this is USGS emergency. Response. We detected a major earthquake in your area. Please respond. Delta 19 here. Magnitude 7.1. I'm still standing, but the module is damaged. Negative, Delta 19. We show magnitude 6.8, and it occurred 14 minutes ago. Are you saying you're experiencing aftershocks? I checked my seismographs. They showed the 7.1 still happening, showed the 6.8 still happening, showed a 7.3, a 6.5, a 7.0, all at once. I'm experiencing all of them, I said. Every version, every timeline. Silence. Then, Delta 19, you need immediate evac. Helicopter inbound, ETA 40 minutes. I sat down next to the fissure. The seismographs in the module were going insane, needles thrashing. I could see the traces from here through the tilted doorway. Hundreds of overlapping earthquakes. Thousands. And I could feel them. All of them. Every version of the ground moving in every possible way. My body existed in all timelines simultaneously, experiencing every earthquake at once. The helicopter arrived. I watched it land, watched the pilot wave at me, watched myself stand up and walk toward it. Then I watched the fissure open beneath the helicopter, watched it tumble into darkness. Except that didn't happen. The helicopter was fine. The pilot was still waving. But I'd seen it happen, had experienced that timeline. I walked toward the helicopter, felt the ground stable beneath my feet, felt it shaking, felt it opening up, felt it all at once. The pilot helped me aboard. We lifted off. I watched the module recede below, tilted and damaged. Watched it collapse into the fissure. Watched it intact and stable. Watched it explode. Watched it fine. All at once. All real. All happening. "You okay?" the pilot asked. I was in the helicopter. I was in the module. I was falling into the fissure. I was in 100 places experiencing 100 versions of the same moment. The seismographs aren't detecting earthquakes from the future or parallel timelines. They're detecting me. I'm the seismic event. I'm splitting across realities, existing in multiple states, and my instruments are recording the ground movements of every version of me stumbling through every possible timeline. I'm typing this in the hospital. The doctors say I'm fine. Mild dehydration. Some shock. They want to keep me overnight for observation. But I'm also still at the station, still standing next to the fissure, still falling into it, still experiencing every possible version of April 14th simultaneously. My seismographs at Delta 19 are still recording. I checked the live feed. They show continuous seismic activity, constant earthquakes of varying magnitudes. But there are no earthquakes. There's just me, existing in too many places at once, and the ground can't support all versions simultaneously. The USGS shut down Delta 19 yesterday. Said the instruments were compromised. Said the data was meaningless. But I can still feel them. Every earthquake I detected, every timeline I split into. I'm here in the hospital. I'm there in the desert. I'm everywhere the seismographs recorded ground movement. And the needles are still dancing. Story 7. The automated weather balloon station. The balloon came back with something in the basket. I'd been launching weather balloons from station November 12 for 11 weeks. The station sat on the Antarctic Plateau, 400 miles from the nearest research base. Automated launches twice daily. Radiosonde packages transmitting temperature, pressure, humidity data as they ascended to 100,000 feet before the balloons burst. My job was to maintain the launcher, monitor transmissions, retrieve packages when they landed within 50 miles of the station. The balloons never came back. They burst at altitude. The packages parachuted down. They landed dozens of miles away if you were lucky enough to get a GPS signal before they hit. On February 9th, Launch 147 came back. I watched it from the station window, the balloon rising into the white sky, expanding as air pressure decreased. At 89,000 feet, still climbing, still transmitting, it stopped. The altitude reading froze. 89,247 feet. The balloon wasn't rising or falling, it was hovering. For 17 minutes, the package transmitted from a fixed altitude. Temperature, 89 degrees. Pressure, 0.2 millibars. Wind speed, 140 km/h. But the GPS showed zero horizontal movement. The balloon was holding position in 140 mile-per-hour winds. Then it descended. Controlled descent, not falling, not parachuting. Descending at exactly 50 feet per minute, steady and mechanical. It landed at the launch site, the balloon intact, not burst. The radiosonde package in its basket still transmitting. I suited up and went outside. The temperature was 45 degrees, wind chill making it feel like 70. The balloon sat deflated on the ice, the basket upright and undamaged. I approached carefully. The radiosonde package was functioning, displays showing current conditions. But there was something else in the basket. A cylinder, metallic, 6 inches long, 2 inches in diameter. Not part of the standard equipment, not anything I'd loaded. I picked it up. It was warm. Shouldn't have been warm. Nothing is warm in Antarctica except what you bring with you. The cylinder had no markings, no seams, no obvious way to open it. Just smooth metal, pleasantly warm in my gloved hand. I brought it inside, set it on the workbench, examined it under the lamp. The radiosonde package had recorded something during its time at 89,000 feet. I pulled the data. Temperature spike. For 43 seconds while the balloon was hovering, the thermometer had recorded 72 degrees. Then normal readings resumed. 72 degrees at 89,000 feet, where temperature should be 89 degrees. The pressure reading had spiked too. 14.7 psi, sea level pressure at nearly 90,000 feet. For 43 seconds, the radiosonde had been somewhere else, somewhere warm, somewhere at sea level. Then it came back, brought the cylinder with it. I tried to open it, tried twisting, pulling, prying. The metal was seamless, smooth, unbreakable, but it was getting warmer, not dangerously hot, just uncomfortably warm, like something alive. That night, I launched the next scheduled balloon, Launch 148. Watched it rise into the darkness, my headlamp tracking it until it disappeared. At 91,000 feet, it stopped. Same pattern, hovering. Temperature spiked to 72 degrees. Pressure spiked to 14.7 psi, 18 minutes of impossible data. Then controlled descent, landing at the launch site, another cylinder in the basket. I had two now, both warm, both seamless, both apparently sent from somewhere that shouldn't exist at high altitude. I checked the other radiosonde packages from previous launches. The ones that had burst normally landed far away. I'd retrieved 43 of them over 11 weeks. I pulled their data logs. 6 of them showed the same pattern. Temperature and pressure spikes at high altitude. Brief periods where the sensors recorded sea level conditions. I hadn't noticed before because the anomalies were buried in gigabytes of normal data. But they'd been there. 6 previous balloons had gone somewhere else. And I'd retrieved those packages, brought them back to the station. I searched through the equipment storage, found the retrieved radiosondes, bagged and labeled, found 6 with cylinders tucked in the baskets, hidden under insulation. Easy to miss. I had 8 cylinders now. They were getting warmer, all of them. I could feel heat radiating through the station, impossible heat in the Antarctic winter. I tried to contact the main base. The satellite phone connected, but the voice on the other end wasn't right. Too clear. No static. No delay. Station, November 12. We've been waiting for your call. This is November 12. I need to report an anomaly with the weather balloon launches. We know. The packages are arriving correctly. Continue operations. Arriving? I haven't sent anything except the standard data uplinks. The physical packages. You've received 8 so far. We need you to collect 12 total. Collect what? The cylinders? Yes. 12 cylinders. Then you'll understand your actual assignment. My assignment is weather monitoring. Your cover assignment. Your actual assignment is retrieval. Continue launching balloons. Continue collecting cylinders. 12 total. Then await further instructions. The call disconnected. I was holding the phone, staring at it, when I heard a sound. Behind me, in the station. The cylinders were opening, not mechanically. The metal was flowing like liquid, reorganizing itself. The solid cylinders were becoming hollow tubes, and something was emerging from inside. Light, not like flashlight beams, not like flames. Solid light, taking shape, forming structures. The first cylinder was producing what looked like a miniature building. Perfect detail, 2 inches tall, glowing with internal radiance. I recognized it. The main research base, 400 miles north. The second cylinder, another building, different architecture, older. I didn't recognize it. As each cylinder opened, a new structure appeared. Buildings, towers, complexes, all miniature, all glowing, all arranged on my workbench in a pattern that matched something. By the time all 8 were complete, I saw what they were building: a map, a layout, research stations, bases, facilities. Some I recognized from Antarctic maps, others I'd never seen. Older, abandoned, or secret. And in the center, where my station sat on the real map, was a gap, a space for 4 more structures. I needed 12 cylinders to complete the map. I launched balloons continuously, every 6 hours, ignoring the schedule, ignoring protocols. I needed the cylinders. Launch 149 brought 1 back. Launch 150 brought 1 back. Launch 151 burst normally at 102,000 feet, no cylinder. Launch 152 brought 2, both in the same basket. The balloon landed, and I ran outside without proper cold weather protocol, grabbed the basket, brought it inside. 11 cylinders now. The phone rang. I didn't remember hearing it ring before. It just rang. Station November 12. You have 11. You need 12. Who are you? We're the cartographers. We're mapping the overlaps. Places where Antarctica touches somewhere else. Your station is built on an overlap. The balloons rise into another place, collect coordinates, return with mapping data. What other place? The same place. Different time, different iteration. Antarctica isn't just a continent. It's a junction point. Multiple timelines converge here. Multiple versions of the same location. The cylinders map the intersections. Why? So we can navigate them, move between them. Your station exists in 5 timelines simultaneously. Most people only perceive one, but with the complete map, you can see all of them. Move between them. Choose which version you want to exist in. I don't want to exist in multiple timelines. You already do. You've been splitting since you arrived. There are 5 versions of you now, 1 in each timeline. The cylinders will show you how to merge back together or how to split further. Your choice. The call ended. I launched Balloon 153. Watched it rise. At 87,000 feet, it stopped. This time, I could see something. A shimmer in the sky. A distortion. The balloon was touching something invisible, pressing against a boundary between here and somewhere else. It descended. Landed. The final cylinder was in the basket. 12 total. I brought it inside. Set it on the workbench with the others. It opened. The final structure appeared. 4 buildings in the center of the map, where my station was. 4 buildings, not 1. My station existed in 4 versions, 4 different designs, 4 different configurations, all occupying the same space in different timelines. The structures on the map began to glow, began brighter. Lines appeared between them, connections, pathways. A network of locations spanning the continent in multiple timelines. I could feel them now. The other versions of myself. In other iterations of the station. One where the equipment was different, older. One where the station was larger, had a crew of 3. One where the station was abandoned, empty for years. One where the station didn't exist at all, just ice and wind. I was in all of them. Simultaneously. 5 versions of me experiencing 5 versions of Antarctica. The phone rang again. You have the complete map now. You can navigate the network, move between stations in different timelines, retrieve more data, map more overlaps. This is your actual assignment. I just want to go home. Which home? Which timeline? You exist in 5. Choose one and the others collapse. Choose none, and you split further. Choose all, and you navigate. I looked at the glowing map. Saw the pathways. Saw the connections. Saw myself in multiple places, multiple times, multiple versions of the same frozen continent. Saw something else too. In one timeline, the station was full of cylinders. Hundreds of them, all open, all projecting structures. The entire room was a maze of glowing buildings, a complete map of every overlap point on Antarctica across dozens of timelines. In that timeline, I was sitting at the workbench, surrounded by light, moving between versions at will. In another timeline, the station was burning. The cylinders had opened into something else, something hot and bright and consuming. In another, the station was intact, but I was gone. Just the map, glowing and complete, with no one to use it. I'm in all of them right now. I launched another balloon this morning. Launch 154. Watched it rise. At 85,000 feet, it stopped. But this time, I stopped too. My body here in the station, but my consciousness rising with the balloon, touching the boundary, feeling the overlap. The balloon brought back a cylinder. But I brought back something else. Memory. From another timeline. From another version of myself who'd already made a choice. They chose to navigate, to keep mapping, to keep splitting. There are 47 versions of them now, spread across the network, existing in dozens of stations across dozens of timelines. They're everywhere and nowhere. They've become the map itself. And they're me. I'm them. We're the same person, experiencing every version of Antarctica simultaneously. The phone is ringing. I can hear it in multiple timelines. 5 different rings. 5 different conversations. In one, I answer and accept the navigation role. In one, I answer and demand extraction. In one, I answer and learn there is no extraction. There never was. The station is the overlap, and everyone who comes here splits and stays, mapping forever. In one, I don't answer. The cylinders keep multiplying. The map keeps growing. In one, I smash the cylinders. Try to destroy the map. But it's too late. I've already split. The map is already complete in my mind. I'm typing this in one timeline. In another, I'm walking outside into 60-degree temperatures without a suit. Walking toward the launch site, walking into the white until I disappear. In another, I'm launching my 100th balloon, collecting my 100th cylinder, mapping my 100th overlap. In another, I never came here at all. The balloons keep rising, the cylinders keep coming, the map keeps growing. I'm everywhere. I'm nowhere. I'm still at station November 12, watching weather balloons touch something they shouldn't be able to touch, and bringing back proof that Antarctica is more than one place. It's every place, all at once, forever.